Panopticon, the Rime of Memory album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from Panopticon. They are a Kentucky-based metal band, a black metal band headed and masterminded by the one and only Mr. Austin Lund, and over the years they have become one of my personal favorite metal bands, especially in the black metal scene right now, especially in the United States. But it wasn't always that way, many years ago, when they dropped their self-titled debut album and albums like Collapse, I thought they were fine. I thought they were just sort of a very fine black metal project at the time. Yes, you could see the beginnings of their epic song structures, and yes, there were moments of brilliance, but at the time, I worried they were blending in a little bit too much. I thought they needed to pop a little bit more. If anything, 2010's On the Subject of Mortality really was the first album I fell in love with from the band. This, to me, just showed them getting so much more ambitious and making their own unique sound. Now, I did still have reservations, because I thought Social Disturbances was just their worst. I thought that was the band just taking a major back step. I almost just fell off completely with them, but with Kentucky, they finally stuck the landing and really built out their signature sound, which is, crushing black metal up against the smooth and rustic sounds of modern bluegrass and Americana, and I thought that really set them apart. And with their next few albums like Roads to the North and my favorite, Autumn Eternal, they just took things to a completely new level. Between the grandiose song structures and Austin's crushing vocals, this was personally where I wanted to hear them. But then 2018's The Marks of Man on the Once Nameless Wilderness came out. I guess we have to talk about it. This was a big misstep for me. A shocking misstep as Panopticon decided to put out a double album. 2 albums back to back. One of them strictly black metal, one of them strictly bluegrass. It's over 2 hours. Nobody asked for it to be split up. It's a disaster. Now, the last time we heard from them in 2021, my thoughts haven't changed on Once Again Into the Light. I genuinely think it was the best album put out that year. Leading up to this title, I knew it was going to be an emotional effort. Austin was going through a dark time in his life, and he used this album and a lot of its themes to step back into the light. It's crushing, but it's also emotional and really powerful, all without detracting from the band's sound at all. Which leads me to this new album, The Rime of Memory, which, clearly, I've had a lot of anticipation for it. Last time they dropped an album, it was my album of the year, and the singles were very solid leading up to it, and yes, the answer to your question is Panopticon are still a great black metal project. Winter's Ghost, this is it, homie. This is it right here. I love the slow, pensive, bluesy intro. It's rugged, it's a little rustic sounding. It does a great job of bringing in that sort of Americana and bluegrass feel of Panopticon's music, as well as the human aspect to it. And I really don't mind just how spaced out it is either. This track takes its time getting going, but that's not a bad thing. The pounding drums, the chanting, the strummed riff, this is exactly what I wanted. And when things go volume up, when things come crashing down and things get hellish very quickly, it gets even more thrilling. Pummeling riffs, explosive drums, thunderous vocals, all spaced out between 20 minutes. And that's not easy to sit through if this isn't usually your bag. If this is your first Panopticon project, don't think this is the place to start, but it's so good, and it just keeps spiraling and sprawling until this track just dies out, yes. Cedar Skeletons, on the other hand, does not give a shit. This track does not waste a single second just tearing out into a blistering black metal tune. There is no grandiose, epic, or emotional intro. This is heavy. Now, I want to take this moment to point out, this is a very different album for Panopticon. This is the heaviest, the most darkest, and the most immersive they've sounded in a while. This is truly the most hellish that Austin has sounded in years, and that's not a bad thing. Some of the drum fills here are absolutely incredible, and I love the soaring, wailing guitars. Now, I am worried that a lot of longtime fans will see a track like this and put it down as a little meat and potatoes. I do understand that, but I think they pull it off in a really big way, especially with just the intensity of this driving riff and the really effective voiceover. We also get some really cool, seriously, very genuinely different sounding post-metal influences in the second half of this track, and that's not the last you'll hear me say that. And Autumn Storm is the album at its most intense. It's definitely a fitting title because this is as harsh as any storm. It's a swirling track of soaring guitars, never-ending drums, and just some of the most guttural vocals you'll hear on metal this year. And it does not let up. I mean, at 9 minutes, this is by far the shortest, most standard, so to speak, track that we get here, but it does not let up, and they just try and cram as much in. It's gnarly, it's nasty, it's got that fist in the air, epic vibes that they've had for albums now, as well as some really human and emotional moments in the second half as well. I continue to love the voiceovers as well. They are very simple yet very effective. And the blue against the white actually ends this album off fantastically. As far as the intro to this track goes, it is so cool. It's far from the heaviest track here. We get even more post-metal nods. If that's not your thing, I get it, but I actually think they do it really well. The atmosphere here is absolutely immaculate. I love the tortured screams coming from the distance, as well as the more chanted vocals coming up front. It's a fantastic different take on the Panopticon sound. It's even more vast and cinematic than usual. And trust me, don't you worry, it does pick up into another very harsh, intense black metal track. It runs over 15 minutes. But I love the drama here, especially when those really intense strings come in the later moments. And the final few minutes of reprieve are actually really beautiful. Yeah, there's a lot to like here, in Panopticon in a lot of ways are firing on all cylinders and sounding just fan-freaking-tastic, man. Now, I will say this, though. There are a couple of moments here that maybe are a little bit too straightforward. Like this album's instrumental intro, which I'm not going to butcher. Sorry, guys, here it is. And sadly, it's actually really average. And I'm not going to sit here and say that this kind of like put me off to the album, like, you know, just put me in a bad mood or something leading up to this thing. I mean, if I'm looking at the pluses here, I love how raw and hurt this track comes off. The strings are great too. But I feel like Panopticon's instrumental interludes and nods to bluegrass and Americana usually tie these albums together. This is just kind of average. And enduring the snow drought, oh god, it's just, once again, it's just okay. From a distance, like, if you listen to this from a mile away, you would think it sounded like a Panopticon track. The boys are back. The guitar solos, the intense drumming, the sounding of the bells, that's all fine and dandy. But once again, it's a little too straightforward for me, a little too meat and potatoes. It reminds me of the just sort of okay black metal they were putting out on their self-titled debut. I think my big issue here is this sounds like a black metal band trying to branch out, not one that put out like 8 albums. There's great elements to it, but I personally know that they can do a lot more because we've seen that in the past. This is a fine black metal record. A lot of this album is Panopticon really firing on all cylinders. I love how dark and gritty and cinematic it gets. As far as that goes, this is just going to be a feast. I just worry that the later you get into the album, there's more missteps, and a few of these tracks just come off as a little bit too safe for my liking. Plus, their last album was so much grander of a statement, you know, I'm just a little disappointed. But not too much, because there's still so much great material. It's Panopticon, man. I'm feeling a very, very strong 7 on this album. But let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.